Hey everyone and welcome. If you're using n8n, you know it's a great automation tool. We use it ourselves. But the question I get a lot is where should I run it? You can run it on your home computer, which I do myself, but if you really want to unlock the true power of n8n, you should host it in the cloud. In this video, I'm going to show you the top benefits of moving your n8n installation to a cloud provider like AWS. I'll cover how you can transform n8n from a personal tool into a professional, secure, and powerful automation engine for any project or business. But first, I want to point out that this video is the why you should use n8n in AWS. I also did another video on the how to use and how to install n8n in AWS, and the link is below. So let's dive in and see why we should use n8n in AWS. Okay, so there are several different ways to install n8n in the cloud. What I show here is we basically just get an Amazon EC2 instance. We put Docker in there, and then we will install n8n on top of that or in there. Right. So there's other ways to do it with Node and so on, but this is probably the easiest way to do it. Now, once we get that started, what we'll do is here's the simple run script that I use for this, the Docker run. But I just wanted to point out that, when you first start this out, when I show you here in my how-to video, the HTTPS is not there because we don't have a secure certificate. So then what we have to do then is put in this little flag here, the n8n secure cookie false, because it's looking to store a cookie when you log in. It's not going to be there, so it's going to give you a warning. So this is basically what we put in here. So let's go ahead and take a look. My name is Dave Froz, and I'm an AI cloud consultant. I've been working in the cloud for over 15 years and have a great team that works with me on all sorts of web and AI development. So if you're looking for AI consulting, training, or development, cloud architecture, or security, or you just want to start your AI journey in the cloud, then click on my link below and schedule a time to talk with me. Okay, back to the video.
Okay, so here I am. I'm inside the AWS account. Here I have my EC2 set up, and you can see here that I'm running a T2 small, and this is works pretty well. Like I said, I personally run a T2 medium, but I also have other things on there as well, not just n8n. And then also you can see, I just want to go through here and just show this real quick. The EC2 n8n role, which I will show here in a little bit, but I just want to see that I have a role assigned to this EC2, which allows it to access the S3. So that's basically what this role does. And you can see here that I have the 35.89.230.122 public IP address. And of course, in my hands-on video, we get rid of this public IP, and so make sure that then it stays all inside. We have the web application or application load balancer that will come in here instead of using the IP address, and so everything is private and it's direct traffic to the EC2 that's hosting n8n, and that is it. And so by looking at this, so here's my IP address, and then we go into the workflow, and you can see that here it is right here, and you can see it's not secure because it's just HTTP, but you can see this is what I have right here. Okay, and one other thing I wanted to show you, let's just go ahead and connect here just so I can show you that we're working with Docker. So we'll put this in here. It should take very long, and then we can just go in here and just go something like just to check out what's running here. You can see here that I have n8n. This is the image that we have in here, and the port number. So and the name that we've given it. So just to show you that we're running Docker and that n8n is running on Docker.
Okay, so now that you got to look inside the EC2 or the AWS environment, so the next step would be then is to add an application load balancer, right? So as you saw, the Amazon EC2 has a public IP address, but if we want to our whole goal is to keep this secure. So in order to keep this secure, we would add an application load balancer. And the application load balancer at first will also have an HTTP as well, so it won't be secure, and so we'd still have the same situation. But there's a lot of things that the application load balancer can help with. And one is the health checks. The ALB constantly checks if your n8n instance is healthy, and we'll stop sending traffic to it if it's not. You can also set up a CloudWatch, which I show or talk about later, and you can have that set up, and that'll actually alert you. So if the EC2 instance, if the server or n8n goes down, then of course it can alert you right away and let you know. And of course, If you want to scale, you can scale this out as well. You can add other instances with the n8n. Of course, I think n8n requires a specific, I think it's called a queue mode configuration for multi-instance setups, but it is possible. And I actually do not know if that's something that can be done with the community edition or if you have to go with the enterprise. Okay, so once we do that, now we take care of the HTTPS issue. So what you can do then is first of all, you can get a free certificate from AWS, and you can put that in there, and that'll help give you the HTTPS. But this has to be done through Route 53, which is kind of like their domain management. And once you do that, then you can have the full secure part, and actually you can have the application load balancer go in there and remove the secure part of it, and it can still go to HTTP, but at least it'll be secure going in. And so in order to do this, you would have to set up like a domain. Like for example, my domain is digital6.tech.com. I can make it n8n.digital6.tech.com, and then that'll actually, then you would use that domain, attach the certificate to that, and then you're all set and ready to go. You don't, in this, in my how-to video, I do not do this. So we would just basically use the application load balancer. It actually gives you a domain as well. It's something like, something load balancer, whatever, but you can use that as well for now just to set it up and test. And that's what I do. Okay. The other option to keep our security up is actually adding an Amazon API gateway. And this is kind of like the front, the front part of your n8n webhooks URLs with the API to add features like request throttling, API usage plans. So like if you have a customer that you have set up and you're charging them on a monthly basis and they have to meet, you don't want them to go over a certain quota, this would be the way to do that with API calls. It's secure, a secure way to secure the endpoints and also to monitor everything that goes through here. Okay, and so now what we do is we add an IAM identity center, right? And this is probably the biggest part of this, and I go into more detail this in my how-to video. But instead of creating like access keys, which you have to use, you can use an IAM role that you can attach to the EC2 where the n8n is located. And by doing that, then by giving it a role, you give it a role to access anything else that's in the environment. So if you're looking, let's just say you want n8n to communicate with an S3 bucket or with something else, you can actually do all that by giving a role to the EC2. If you don't give it a role to do that, then it can't access anything. So this is a great way to keep things secure and only access what you need. So for example, here I have it set up to where you can access the Amazon DB or S3 buckets. And then so these will have here, and I go into more detail, but this just kind of gives you an idea. If you're given a role, we can even say we're given a role to EC2, which is n8n, given n8n access to these. And so these Amazon buckets will only be able to communicate with this part, and that's it. The nice advantage of having this in AWS is that you have zero public internet exposure. The automatic, it does a credential rotation for you. You'll meet the compliance, and it's just a cost-effective way of monitoring everything that goes on. Okay, so let's take a look for more details.
Okay, so here I am back in the n8n that you looked at here just a little bit ago. But what I wanted to do is I just want to show you how secure we can make this whole n8n flow go. So I'm using two n8n S3 nodes that I have right here. And then what I have is a code, and then I have some HTTP requests. And so basically what I wanted to do here is this is going to get credentials, first it's going to get a token, it's going to then check the role, and then it's going to use that to get all the credentials, which means the access key and the private key. It's going to give that here to this code here, and then it's going to upload the file, because basically what this S3 auth is doing is it's authorizing, but it's also sending a real simple text file into S3. This is going to, or for S3, and then this is going to send it to S3, and then I'm going to use it to list all the files that are in here. And we're going to go into that bucket right now. So this is the S3 bucket right here, and I have a secure upload in here, and you can see here I've sent some up here just to send some files up here, but you can check them out here, and this is where they go. Okay, so what we'll do here is I will execute this workflow, and it went through successfully. And now we'll just take a look at everything we're doing here. So basically what we do is, first of all, we get a private token. Actually, let me just go back here real quick, and let me just go from here. So when you check an Amazon S3 account, basically what you have to do, let's just take a look at this. you have to put in your access key and secret access key. Now that's fine if that's the way you want to do it. You'd have to do that on a local PC, or if you're hosting somewhere else, you have to do that. But what I did is this is a dynamic access key and secret access key that is given to us by the EC2 by having this EC2 set up inside AWS. And then basically what I do is I get a session token, which is temporary. So this is the more secure way of doing this. And this can only be done by having the EC2 and having n8n inside of AWS. Okay, so let me just go back now and show you what I did. Okay, so we went in here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the 169.255 URL. This is basically what's used to get the metadata from EC2. If you're taking the AWS Solutions Architect exam, this comes up at least once or twice in the exam on getting metadata on EC2. So this is the main part right here. This is really what separates the security from anything being an EC2. So this can only be done because we're using the EC2 metadata in AWS. So basically what this is doing, this is sending trying to get an API token, and then we go here. And so you can see here now in the data, we can go in JSON as well. Here is your secret token that we ask for, and then we get, right, the token. So now we have this here. We have the token. So now we take that token and we'll use that token here. Here's a token here. We put that in there. And basically what we're going to do now is we're going to get the role, right? So we get the role here. Let me just scroll back in here. So we want to ask for the security credentials. That's what it's asking for. And we send the secret token to get that information. And you can see here, we're getting the EC2 n8n role. That's the role that's assigned. And remember, I showed you this before, but we'll go back and look at it here. Here is the EC2 n8n role. Now in my hands-on video, we kind of play around with this a little bit. I remove the role and then we see if it works. Of course it doesn't, but you can, that's basically how it works. So really what this comes down to is that the EC2 can only access the S3 when it has this role. So now we get the role and then from there, we're going to get their credentials. And basically what we're doing is we're sending all that information that we got here, the data information and the role, and we have the key and everything else, and that's put in there. And then what we do is that we get this information here, which is basically your access key, right? So you have your access key ID, and then you have your secret key access, and then of course our token, right? So we have all that data now that we have to access the S3 bucket, right? So now we have that here. And then what we're going to do here is I just have it set up to create a simple text file. And that's basically what it does. This file is uploaded. This is what it puts in there. Basically what we just do is just put on the current time and date right in here. That's what this string does here. And then we send the credentials with that as well. So we send that over. And then we got our file. Everything's ready to go. And then what we're going to do is we're going to upload it in here. And this is basically what we have. So we have the file right here. I send all the credentials. We have send the file name, which asks for, which is coming from the S3 auth, which is right in here, right? So everything's being sent from here. So really all our dynamic information is coming from here. So like I mentioned here, when we go into the account here, you can see that everything's coming from that node, that code node that I set up here, right? Okay, and then we have the file name, and then we send that information, which it sent, which is true. And then let's just go and take a look, right? So this just came through, and here it is right here. This is our newest one. Whoops, I'm sorry. This is the one I just did earlier. Let's do another one. Okay, here it is right here. So I just did a refresh, sorry. And then let's just go ahead. So you can see it's all right in here. This is everything is in here that we look at. And then let's go ahead and take a look at it. So let's open it up. And here it is. Hello from n8n on EC2. So here's the file and here's everything we sent. If we go back and check that here, you can see here all the information's right here. So you can see how that works and how it goes. Hello from n8n EC2. Here it is right here. We've got that here. Okay, so that's in here. And then what we did, let's just go back to the deal here. So you can see all the files here. I think what we have, 8, we have 9. We go into here, go to the next one. Let's just take a list. And here it lists everything that's in here, right? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? So here's all the information from all the files that are listed in that bucket. So there you go. So I go into more detail on our hands-on, but I just wanted to kind of show you just, you know, the nice thing about the security. Everything's internal. Like I said, this cannot be done. If you tried to run this on your computer at home, this would not work because the big thing is the 169.255, the meta information that you get from EC2. And of course, like I said, if you're taking the test, you might want to look that up. This is the main reason how we can do this. Now, there's several other ways to do this as well. This is just what I really wanted to show you is just how you can keep this secure and internal, and then also have dynamic access keys instead of hard coding access keys.
Okay, so now let's look at some of the other options and other services we can use in n8n, and AWS. So let's just say right here we have a document, and we send that document is sent to the Amazon S3 bucket. And once that's done, you can set up a trigger, and we can use like Event Bridge to trigger that event. And then what that can do is then it can send like let's just say a webhook or something like that to n8n, which then will maybe wants to process that document or look at something in that document. And once that is done, let's say it triggers another service. Let's just say, for instance, a Lambda. And I'll just say real quick that a Lambda function is very similar to an n8n workflow. Many times we may do something in n8n, and then we'll move it to a Lambda function later once we test it. But so AWS Lambda and n8n pretty much are the same. But let's just say, for example, you want to use a Lambda function that can trigger that Lambda function. The Lambda function then does whatever it was supposed to do, sends that information back to n8n, and let's just say it fixes that document or whatever, and then we store that document back in S3. So this workflow is a great way to use the Amazon S3 bucket to trigger something, and then also to store the output back into S3, which is a cheap, durable way of storing documents. And so this is a big deal with AWS, and that's decoupling your workflow, right? So if you had, if you let's just say you didn't have n8n, but you had Lambda functions or whatever, this is a great way of doing this. And by decoupling, meaning that, for example, let's just say someone's filling out a form here, and then that comes in, and that form, the information comes into n8n. But let's just say you had, for example, I don't know, let's say maybe 1 million people that fill out the form. That information then may get, depending on how long it takes for n8n to take care of that information, that may cause a problem. Now, of course, you could scale it, but you could also decouple this and break this up and have it go to the Amazon queue. And so basically what this means is this is a queue, and this will store the information, and then the n8n can take that from the queue, and then once it's ready for the next one, it can just keep going to the queue. So the queue can be like a buffer, and that'll help. So if anything, that way, if the system goes down, let's just say n8n goes down, the information will stay in the buffer in the queue, and then when it's ready, it can go back, and then once it can process the data, and then of course then send that data to any type of database, S3 or wherever you want to do next. So this is a great way to set this up, and if something ever happens, it's all decoupled and doesn't rely on anything else. Okay, so now moving on to emails. So let's just say you have a customer that wants to send emails, and I know there's a lot of YouTube videos out there to show you how to send emails with Google, but now you can send it with Amazon. And so basically what you do is it comes into the application load balancer, it comes through, and then it'll say triggers an email to go out. So once it triggers the email to go out, it'll send it out, and there's no problem. So it's a great way. It's like kind of SMTP email service. So that's how you would do that. And then it'll use that to send that out. Okay, so now we're going to go over security groups. And so basically what we have here is the application load balancer and the Amazon EC2, what they are is they each have their security group, and it's a stateful firewall for each service. And you can configure it so it only accepts traffic from certain groups, other certain groups. So for example, for the EC2 here, we would set up port 5678. We'd open that up so it'll allow port 5678, and we can accept it to accept traffic from just the security group of the load balancer. That means so it'll only take traffic from the load balancer, and that's it. And it has to be on this port, no other port. So it can't be port 80 or 443. This is how that would work. You can also set it up for, let's just say you want to SSH into it. You can set up port 22. And so once this is set up, it'll reject all other connections. This means no one on the internet can directly access the n8n in here, and it must go through the load balancer through here. So this will accept the port 80. So you can set up port 80 or 443 here. This will accept the traffic, and then it'll send it to the traffic that it needs to go to. You can actually set up the application load balancer to send it to other applications as well, or just the EC2 with it has the n8n. So this is a very secure way. I show this in my hands-on. We actually set up so it breaks it, so it doesn't work, but it also so you can see how that goes, and then we fix it, so you can see how important this is. And this is really something that is very good for a customer that needs to worry about security and have it working on certain things. And this is how it would work. Okay, so now I also talked about there are other advantages of using an application load balancer, and one of them is to add a WAF, which we call a web application firewall. So what you do is you attach your WAF to your application load balancer to protect n8n from common web exploits like SQL injections, cross-site scripting, XSS, and then you can also maybe DDoS attacks and so on. So this is a great way to protect whatever you have in using your n8n. So this is easy to add, and I show you the options in the hands-on video as well. But once again, this is another way of adding more security to what you're running with your n8n. Okay, so now what we do is we add Secrets Manager. And Secrets Manager is exactly what it is. You can add your secrets. While n8n has its own encrypted credentials storage for projects and so on that you have, you can store third-party API keys like Stripe, Google, etc. in the AWS Secrets Manager. And so your n8n workflow can use a node with the AWS SDK and to fetch these secrets. So this is a great way to store all your secrets and then used whenever you might need it with the n8n and the nodes in there. So another way of adding more security. Now, the other thing that this is really big, this is in AWS, is you can actually log everything that goes on inside your AWS service. So it records actions taken in your AWS account. You can think of it as a security camera, and it just records all the activity in AWS. n8n will trigger this when your n8n workflow uses an AWS node like the S3 node. It is authenticated as an IAM role, and then it makes an API call to the S3 bucket on behalf of the EC2. And so this is all recorded. So then you'll see, like, let's say if you put a document into an S3, this will be recorded in the CloudTrail. You would see the event showing that your IAM role, the role itself, was actually accessing, when you put the object into an S3 bucket, which is incredibly valuable for security audits and troubleshooting. So if any kind of problems that happen, you can go from there. Now, I'll just make this clear, is that the n8n, anything that happens with n8n, like if it does an external call or anything that happens inside of n8n, the CloudTrail will not track that. So so this is only when it accesses a service in AWS. Okay, so once you have that, now you can actually add CloudWatch. And then what CloudWatch does is it actually will work with your CloudTrail, and it can monitor all the logs that happen in CloudTrail. You can monitor, let's just say, the CPU utilization. If it goes over 80% for 10 minutes, it can send an alert, or it can actually do something. It can spin up another EC2 if that's what you have it set for. So it's a perfect way to monitor everything that goes on in the logs, and you can set up alarms and so on. And I think I mentioned that too, that if you have if it sees something, it'll alert you. It can send you an email or any type of notification that you set up. And of course, if you have a customer that has a lot of data and they require backup, its backup is already in there, so it's easy to do. And the nice thing about this is that you can create a backup plan that automatically takes daily or weekly snapshots of your EC2 instance as well. So that would be what's going on here for the n8n. It can actually back that up, or it can back up any other kind of data that you might have, whether it be other databases, or just your EBS, which is the hard drive, if you want to look at more of like a hard drive in your EC2. Okay, and the nice thing about this too is that you can set up budgets. So let's just say if you have a customer that you're charging as a monthly fee, and you say they cannot go over, let's say, $50 a month, you can set that up in the AWS budget. And then you can also look to see where your expenses are coming from. So you can say, oh, I'm spending a lot on, let's just say you have storage in your S3 bucket and it's exceeding a certain time, or you're using a lot of EC2 power and it's costing you a lot of money. You can kind of see where that goes. So these are great free tools to use in AWS. Okay, now we're going to talk about Bedrock. Now, Bedrock you can use, on your local PC or whatever through n8n, that's fine. But once again, it is staying within the AWS environment, so it never leaves. So that's another great benefit of using Bedrock. But Bedrock is kind of like your gateway to generative AI. You can think of it as an easy to use API for accessing, very powerful pre-trained LLMs like Claude, Llama, Anthropic, and so on. So, or in the Titan models as well. And the benefits is that it's a perfect tool to connect your data here in n8n to all these AI models that are here. So, for example, you can test this. A certain model is to say you want to use Claude, and then you want to use Llama. This is very easy to do. It's just, and it can all be done inside of the environment, like I mentioned. Okay, so let's go over some case examples of how you can use n8n and Bedrock. So what you can do is you can set up an automated content creation. Let's just say you have a new product that is added to Shopify store. A webhook triggers an n8n workflow. The workflow sends the product title and description to the Amazon Bedrock. And then the node, and it has a prompt. Let's just say like write a catchy 30-word marketing description for this product, the product data, and then what it does is sends it back to n8n. It gets the AI generated content, and then the n8n will then upload or add that content to the Shopify product description. Okay, another one would be automatic image generation. So let's just say a new blog post entry is created in Google. And then the Google Sheets, let's just say the benefits of solar power, and then n8n takes this title, creates a prompt for the image model, and then let's just say it wants a photorealistic image of a modern house with solar panels on the roof and so on. It sends that to the Stable Diffusion model via Amazon Bedrock, and then it sends it back to n8n, and then it has uploads that to maybe say an S3 bucket or to the WordPress. Okay, and you can also use Amazon SageMaker as well. Once again, you can use that from anywhere, but once again, it's inside your environment, so that helps with security. So SageMaker is a much broader platform for data scientists and developers to build. After you've trained, you can customize your own trading. And once you've done that, you can use that to predict customer churn or detect fraud. SageMaker deploys it to a unique HTTPS endpoint. And so how it can benefit n8n is that it can act as an operational glue for your custom models. It can take the data from your business application, you can send it to your SageMaker model for prediction, and then take the action based on the result. And then you would use the n8n's HTTP request node to call your model's unique endpoint. So let's take a look at some case models. Let's just say we have a real-time fraud detection. So what we can do here, a customer makes a purchase on your website, and then what happens is n8n is triggered by a webhook, and then what it will do is sends the data to your custom SageMaker. SageMaker then looks to see hey, is this fraud or not? Let's just say it has to be above 0.92 to say if it's fraud. And if it's less than that, then it would go from there. That model sends the fraud score back. And then from there, the n8n checks the score and says, hey, this is above 90, it could be fraud. And so it can put it on hold for your team to review. Another option would be the lead scoring for your CRM. Let's just say you have a new lead that comes in, and then it checks out that new lead. It sends it to SageMaker for a lead scoring model. So the n8n is triggered, sends the information to SageMaker. SageMaker then sends it back and says, hey, this is a great lead or not a good lead. And then you can send it to the CRM based on what the model says. Okay, so just to review everything, making n8n a true automation platform. It's reliable, it's 24/7. So if you have it stored on your local PC, you may not always have it. You have to keep it running all the time. When you store it in the cloud, you don't need to. It's professional. So if you have customers that really want something that they can have access to, that maybe they have to meet certain criterias like HIPAA or SOC or something like that, or NIST, they can have that taken care of, especially with a custom domain and the SSL. It's securely connecting to your entire cloud ecosystem. So like I said, everything is inside, it works great. And then of course, you also have all the security that goes in place with AWS, enterprise grade security. And of course, works with most AWS services, which I mentioned, there's over 200 services in AWS. Not all of them would work with n8n, but The nice thing about that is you can use several different services. What maybe there's not a node for that. If there's not a node, then you can use the HTTP request node to connect. And of course, they'll all be internal. Nothing has to leave the AWS environment.
Okay, so to recap, hosting n8n in the cloud transforms it from a simple single tool into a true automation platform. Reliable, it runs 24/7. It's professional with custom domains and SSL. It's integrated, securely connecting to your entire cloud ecosystem. You want to see how to do all this step by step, make sure you subscribe because in my next video, I'll show you how we walk through the whole entire process of setting this up, putting n8n on an AWS EC2 instance, like I mentioned, from start to finish. Thanks for watching.